at home against Bournemouth.
They're used to making history in Boston, and today they'll write another chapter as the town's football club entertain Bournemouth in the first ever Football League game at York Street, something Pilgrim fans have waited a long time to see.
Now, Boston are in the Nationwide. What do you make of it?
Brilliant.
How do you think they'll do?
Mid-table.
I never thought it would happen, really. You know, so I've been watching them since I was, 89 year old, you know, and that's nearly 50, 60 years ago, like, you know.
Following an inquiry into financial irregularities at the club, the FA have docked the Nationwide new boys 4 points before they've even kicked a ball. Vital then they get off to a good start in the professional ranks.
We've got to come out the blocks quick on the first few weeks of the season, see if we can wipe them off as quick as we can and restore parity. And it's not going to be easy. We're under no illusions. You know, it's going to be a tough season. It's a demanding division.
With the worrying times of the summer now seemingly behind them, Boston and their fans are now looking forward to happier times, with this afternoon's game certain to be played amidst a carnival atmosphere.
There's going to be, I would think, a capacity crowd at York Street, and it's going to be a terrific atmosphere. And you know, a few seasons ago, the Boston fans could have possibly never dreamed of that.
Obviously, the town's buzzing. You know, they're desperate for Football League football. And everything's upbeat, you know, they're more or less concentrating on the season now. It's a big season for the club and they want to do well.
Famous for its Pilgrim fathers and its rich and fertile agricultural lands, Boston is hoping it will now become known for its football. David Craig, Sky Sports.
Well, we're joined on the phone now by Boston manager Steve Evans. Good morning to you, Steve. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us this morning.
Pleasure, Zoe.
Now, what's the situation at the moment with you?
Well, I mean, the situation with myself has not changed. I've been suspended by the chairman pending the outcome of my own case against with the Football Association, and obviously because of holiday commitments on both sides, mainly with the legal guys on both sides. So it's been held up beyond anyone's reckoning of what they wanted it to be. But at the end of the day, in my position, I can understand the reasons, because people outside of me do need holidays.
So at the moment, when do you expect to hear the outcome of your future?
Well, I've spoken to my QC, Jim Sturman, late afternoon yesterday, and he's confident now that there is a date being earmarked for the middle of September, which seems a long time away when you're sitting from my point of view, which is very frustrating and out of football mainly. But at the end of the day, that's the earliest date I think that all parties can get round the table and get through this. And hopefully, you know, we are confident that we'll get a full and fair hearing at the Football Association. And we're further confident that when that's happened, I'll be reinstated as manager of the club that I love, which is Boston United.
And if it doesn't go to plan, what options are open to you?
Well, we're not going to look at those options, Zoe, because they're fairly catastrophic. If the worst came to the worst, then I would possibly, I don't know what the FA would look upon, but perhaps leaving football for a while. But that's not an option we're considering. We're confident that, you know, when we go there in the middle of September, that we can represent ourselves fairly. And if all works out well, I've had numerous conversations with the chairman of Boston United, Des Wood, who's been absolutely magnificent to me, and we've sat down and we've agreed that you know, post that date, he looks forward to me being back in charge of the team.
So as you say, mid-September does seem a long time off. So what are your plans for today and for the rest of the time until September?
Well, as you can imagine, it's very frustrating. You know, it's the first opening day of the season I've missed in 6 years since I come into football on the management side. But today I'll go down to Cambridge, they're fairly local to me, and I'll have a look at them in Darlington. And I'll watch now as many games as I can in Division 3, Zoe, and keep my knowledge of Division 3 football and the players, teams and systems. And I'll keep that knowledge going into my head as much as I can for the day I go back to Boston.
How much of a hand have you had in the new signings that Boston have made?
Well, in recent times, obviously, I've not had any hand, because although I've had numerous calls on a weekly basis with the chairman, then obviously that's to do more with the case that I'm facing myself and nothing to do with the team. You know, Neil Thompson, who was my number 2 last year, has been put in charge of the team. But in your answer, you know, the players that were signed early in that campaign of the summer, like Matthew Hawking and Ben Chapman, then obviously I signed them. And my number 1 target, which was Tom Bennett, I had sat down with our chief executive at Boston and Tom Bennett, and we had agreed a deal in principle. So that was done. But obviously the later 2 signings of Neil Redfearn and the young lad out of Hull have both been the decision of Neil. But obviously he's got a job to do to satisfy the chairman, more importantly the supporters.
And what are your expectations if everything goes to plan and you're back in charge after mid-September?
Well, I've got no doubt, Zoe, that Boston United will finish in the top 7. I've got no doubt whatsoever. You only had to look at the wonderful achievements of what Nicky Lowe achieved when he was manager at Chesterfield. They had a 9-point deduction and still automatically qualified up to Division 2. So I'm fairly confident that the players at Boston United, they're a brilliant squad of players. I think we've added wisely to it as a football club, and I'm sure that they'll beat Bournemouth today, and I'm sure they'll get their first 3 points as a Football League club. OK, Steve, thanks very much. Pleasure, Zoe.
Well, now joining us is Boston General Manager John Blackwell, who joins us live from York Street. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, John. Now, we've just heard Steve there saying that he's grateful for the support from the club, and he hopes that everything pending the FA hearing in September will go to plan. How do you feel about this?
Well, it's been a traumatic time for the Boston United Football Club with these charges issued by the Football Association. It's come at the wrong time, and as most people know, 2 or 3 weeks ago we got the decision, and we've had to go working very hard to get everything ready for this afternoon.
Now, this afternoon, it's a huge day for you, isn't it? The first time in the league, and you've got a home game.
Yes, we play AFC Bournemouth, who are a very, very good side. They got relegated last year. It's going to be a very, very difficult game. We hope that the Boston public will come out this afternoon and support us, and hope we can start to put some points aboard.
Who do you think are going to be your key players then this season?
Well, I mean, we won the conference last year, and we had some very, very good players. Steve brought some good players to the club. In the last few weeks, as Steve has just said, we've brought Tom Bennett into the club. Neil Redfearn has come from Halifax to add a bit of experience to what we had. And I think we have got a very, very good side. It might take us a few weeks to blend, but I'm sure once we get going, we'll do very well in the Football League.
Now, Darryl Clare was very much responsible last season for your success. Are you hoping for much of the same from him?
Well, Darryl finished up as top goal scorer in the Nationwide Conference last year. He also won the Player of the Year award, voted by the players and the management, and we're looking for big things from Darren this year. He's a very experienced player. He gets goals, and everybody likes to watch Darryl play.
Now, starting the new season in a new league on -4 points isn't exactly perfect. What are the realistic hopes?
Well, it's not an ideal situation to have points deducted before you kick off, but we've just got to get on, play football, and the points will come. OK, thank you very much for talking to us, John.
So Boston very confident of a bright season ahead. Let's have a look at how the rest of the teams line up in Division 3 today, and there it is, Boston United against Bournemouth. As you've seen, Bournemouth, as you heard there as well, relegated last season, of course, but a strong side. Cambridge at home at the Abbey Stadium welcome Darlington.